On a stormy night, a struggling waitress saves a disabled boy from the rain, unaware his billionaire father is watching. This single act of kindness triggers a whirlwind of betrayal, power plays, and redemption. Can compassion survive in a ruthless world? Watch till the end to uncover the shocking truth. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more gripping stories. Fateful Encounter. The rain poured down like an unforgiving torrent, pounding the cracked pavement of Lexington Avenue. It was past midnight, and the dim glow of the diner's neon sign fought to cut through the downpour. Inside, Lisa Brooks was wiping down the counters, her feet aching from a brutal 12-hour shift. The diner had been dead for the past hour, but she wasn't in a rush to close up. You never knew who might need a warm place to sit, especially on a night like this. Lisa's mind wandered as she scrubbed, thinking about the overdue rent notice stuffed in her purse and the way her mother's cough had been getting worse. There wasn't enough money to cover both. There was never enough money. She took a deep breath, shook off the worry, and tried to focus on finishing her shift. Just as she tossed her rag over her shoulder, something caught her eye through the rain-slicked window. A small, hunched figure was parked just beyond the diner's faded neon glow. A kid in a battered wheelchair, shivering under a soaked, threadbare coat. Lisa's heart twisted. No way she could leave him out there. Grabbing an old flannel from the break room, she pushed open the door, wincing as the icy wind hit her face. She jogged over, kneeling down to meet the boy's frightened gaze. His pale face was streaked with raindrops, and his hands gripped a frayed blanket that barely covered his thin legs. "Hey there, sweetie," she said softly, trying not to scare him off. "What are you doing out here all alone?" The boy's blue eyes widened, unsure whether to trust her. His lips quivered as he whispered, "I'm waiting for my dad." Lisa glanced up and down the empty, rain-soaked street. No one was around. The only sound was the rain hammering the asphalt and the faint hum of streetlights buzzing in the distance. "Come inside," she urged, placing a gentle hand on the wheelchair's handle. "It's warm. I'll make you something hot to eat. Your dad will know to come here and find you, okay?" He hesitated, then gave a tiny nod, too exhausted to argue. Lisa wheeled him inside, the warm air enveloping them like a hug. She positioned him near the radiator, draping the flannel over his shoulders and brushing damp hair from his forehead. "What's your name, honey?" "Ethan," he mumbled, his teeth still chattering. "Nice to meet you, Ethan," she said, flashing a kind smile. "I'm Lisa. You like grilled cheese?" He nodded cautiously. Lisa didn't waste time, moving behind the counter and whipping up a grilled cheese with a side of tomato soup. The scent of melted cheddar filled the room, and Ethan's face softened as the plate was set in front of him. He took a cautious bite, and his eyes widened with wonder. "This is so good," he said between bites, voice tinged with awe. Lisa chuckled. "Nothing a good grilled cheese can't fix." Unbeknownst to her, across the street, inside a sleek black Bentley, John Taylor was watching. He hadn't intended to be delayed. His call with overseas investors had run longer than expected. But now, seeing his son being fed and cared for by this stranger, he felt a strange pang in his chest. He had never trusted kindness, never believed in it. To him, life was a series of transactions, debts owed, favors returned. But this woman hadn't known who Ethan was or what his last name could buy. John's phone buzzed, and he clicked it open. It was Sarah, his assistant. "Sir, the investors agreed to the terms," she reported. "Good, change of plans. I need you to come to Lexington Diner. No suits, no heels. Blend in." "Understood." As he hung up, he continued watching through the window, his mind whirling. Kindness wasn't something he encountered often, and he wasn't sure what to make of it. A woman like her shouldn't be wasting herself in some rundown diner. She was too sharp, too instinctively good-hearted. That could be useful, maybe even dangerous. Back inside, Lisa was wiping soup off Ethan's chin, making the boy laugh. The sound was startling, pure and unexpected. Ethan's laughter was something John hadn't heard in a long time, not since his wife had passed away. Guilt crept into his stomach. He'd been so consumed by building his empire that he'd forgotten what his son's happiness looked like. Then, without warning, the diner door swung open, and Sarah stepped in, dressed down in jeans and a hoodie. Her eyes went straight to Ethan, calculating as always, but softened when she saw him safe and comfortable. "Hey, champ," she greeted, keeping her tone light. "Ready to go?" Ethan hesitated, glancing back at Lisa, who offered him a reassuring nod. As Sarah started to wheel him out, Lisa called after them, pressing a wrapped cookie into Ethan's hand. "For the road," she smiled. Ethan beamed back, waving goodbye. Outside, John stepped out of the car, his face a mask of indifference as Sarah pushed Ethan toward him. "She didn't buy the aunt story," Sarah whispered. "Smart girl." John nodded, his gaze fixed on the diner. "Find out everything about her. Name, address, background. I want a full report on my desk by morning." "Yes, sir." As the car pulled away, John couldn't help but glance back one last time, his thoughts swirling with unfamiliar emotions. The woman had done something for his son that money couldn't buy. She'd given him a moment of peace, of simple human warmth. But kindness had its cost, and John intended to repay it one way or another. An offer too good to refuse. The next morning, Lisa awoke to the shrill ring of her ancient landline phone. Groggy and sore from the long shift, she barely managed to pick up before the ringing stopped. "Hello," she croaked, rubbing her eyes. "Lisa Brooks?" A crisp, businesslike voice responded. "Yeah, that's me. Who's calling?" "Sarah Evans, assistant to Mr. John Taylor of Taylor Dynamics. He would like to meet with you. Can you be at the Taylor Tower by 10 a.m.? Lisa sat up straight, suddenly wide awake. Taylor Dynamics? That was the biggest tech conglomerate on the East Coast. What the hell did they want with her? Sure. What's this about?" she managed to ask, still baffled. "I'll let Mr. Taylor explain. Dress professionally." The line went dead. Lisa wasn't sure what to wear to a billionaire's office, but she dug through her small closet and found her one decent blazer and a pair of clean slacks. As she rode the bus downtown, her nerves coiled tight in her stomach. The Taylor Tower was a gleaming behemoth of glass and steel, towering over the city like a monument to power and money. The lobby was pristine, with marble floors and walls lined with abstract art worth more than her entire apartment building. A well-dressed receptionist eyed Lisa like she'd wandered in from another planet. After an elevator ride that felt like it stretched on for hours, Lisa found herself standing in front of massive mahogany doors. Sarah, now in her professional armor, tailored suit and perfectly coiffed hair, gestured for her to enter. Inside the cavernous office, John Taylor stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the sprawling cityscape. He didn't turn around when she entered, just motioned for her to sit. Lisa swallowed hard and eased into the leather chair across from his polished desk. "You're probably wondering why you're here," John said, his voice as controlled as ever. "Yeah," Lisa replied, trying to sound confident despite her heart pounding. He finally turned, his piercing gray eyes sizing her up. "You helped my son last night." Lisa blinked, taken aback. "That's why I'm here." John crossed his arms. "I don't believe in charity or unpaid debts. You did something for Ethan without expecting anything in return. That's rare. I intend to repay it." She couldn't believe her ears. "Sir, I didn't do it for—" "I know," he cut in. "That's the point. I want to offer you a job at Taylor Dynamics." Lisa felt her jaw drop. "What? A job? Doing what?" John moved around the desk, resting against its edge, towering over her. "Public relations. We need someone who understands people, who knows how to read a room and handle situations with tact and empathy. You proved that last night. 6 figures, full benefits. Take it or leave it." Lisa's brain struggled to catch up. 6 figures? Benefits? She could finally move out of that crummy apartment, take care of her mom, and not live paycheck to paycheck. But something gnawed at her. "Why me?" she asked. "You don't even know me." John's face remained impassive, but his eyes softened, just a fraction. "Because you treated my son like a human being when most people would have walked by. I need someone like that on my team, someone who sees beyond appearances." The offer was too good to refuse. Lisa took a deep breath, determined to keep her pride intact. "I'll take it, but don't think for a second I'm going to be some token hire or your charity project." John's lips twitched in what might have been the ghost of a smile. "I wouldn't expect anything less." Her first day at Taylor Dynamics was a whirlwind of controlled chaos. Sarah gave her a quick, efficient tour, making no effort to hide her skepticism about Lisa's sudden arrival. Employees whispered behind her back, eyes following her as she moved through the halls. In the PR department, the tension was palpable. Most of the team were Ivy League graduates with years of corporate experience. And here she was, a diner waitress thrust into the mix. Lisa was assigned to work directly with John, which only fueled the gossip. She overheard one woman snidely whisper to another, "She must be sleeping with him. There's no way she's qualified." It stung more than she wanted to admit, but Lisa knew better than to let them see her falter. She put her head down and focused on her tasks: research, drafting statements, analyzing public sentiment. She might not have had a fancy degree, but she knew how to talk to people and make them feel seen. One afternoon, as she was drafting a press release about Taylor Dynamics' new community outreach program, Sarah stepped into her cubicle, her expression icy. "You're being watched," Sarah said without preamble. Lisa frowned. "What do you mean?" "Some people aren't thrilled with how you got here. They're digging into your past, trying to find something to use against you. I'd be careful if I were you." Lisa squared her shoulders, refusing to let fear seep into her voice. "I've got nothing to hide." "Maybe," Sarah replied, arching an eyebrow. "But they don't need truth, just a story that sticks." Later that evening, as Lisa was preparing to leave, John approached her office, his expression serious. "You have a meeting with the Orion Group tomorrow," he informed her. "What's it about?" she asked, trying to suppress her anxiety. "They're pushing a contract to move production overseas. It would save costs, but lay off thousands of American workers," he explained. That's terrible," Lisa said, shocked. John nodded. "I want you there to make them see why it's a mistake. You're good at making people think differently. Use that." Lisa couldn't help but feel a surge of determination. This was her chance to prove herself, to show she wasn't just some pity hire. But she couldn't shake the feeling that not everyone wanted her to succeed. She knew that in a place as cutthroat as Taylor Dynamics, one wrong move could end everything. And someone was waiting, just waiting, for her to fail. The storm hits the next morning, Lisa dressed with meticulous care, choosing a navy blue blazer that looked professional without being too flashy. She knew the Orion Group meeting was a critical test. If she could convince them to rethink outsourcing, it would not only save thousands of jobs, but also prove her worth to Taylor Dynamics. John greeted her in the sleek, glass-walled conference room, already immersed in paperwork. He gave her a brief nod, but his usual cool demeanor seemed tighter, more focused. "Ready?" he asked, his gray eyes piercing. Lisa took a deep breath. "Yeah, let's do this." The Orion Group executives filed in. 3 middle-aged men in expensive suits, with an air of practiced indifference. The leader, Philip Langford, looked like he'd been born in a boardroom, his every move calculated and confident. He barely glanced at Lisa as he shook John's hand. They sat down, and without wasting time, John opened the discussion. "We're here to discuss the proposed production shift to Taiwan," he began, keeping his tone neutral but firm. "I believe there are significant risks to this strategy." Langford gave a dismissive wave. "It's a cost-cutting measure. Simple as that." "The numbers add up, John." Lisa couldn't help herself. "They might add up now, but what about in 3 years when labor costs spike and public backlash tarnishes your brand? You're not just moving jobs, you're moving loyalty. The press will eat that up." Langford turned his eyes on her for the first time, assessing. "And you are?" "Lisa Brooks, PR strategy," she said, not breaking eye contact. "And I'm telling you, the public narrative will destroy investor confidence. You might save money short-term, but long-term, it's a PR nightmare." Langford chuckled condescendingly. "I've dealt with protests before, Miss Brooks. They're nothing but noise. The profits will speak for themselves." Lisa felt frustration bubbling. People aren't just numbers. They're your workers, your backbone. If you betray them, they won't just walk away. They'll fight back. Social media campaigns, union actions, boycotts. It all starts with one disgruntled voice, amplified by 1,000 others. You don't just risk profits, you risk reputation. Langford's confident smirk faded slightly, and John gave her an approving glance. She'd hit a nerve. After a tense moment, Langford folded his arms, clearly less certain than when he'd walked in. "Fine," he conceded, though his tone was grudging. "We'll reconsider. No promises." When the meeting concluded, John gave Lisa a subtle nod, a rare sign of approval. Lisa couldn't suppress her triumphant smile. The betrayal. That evening, Lisa was riding high on her success when her phone buzzed with a notification. An anonymous tip to the press had leaked confidential financial documents implicating Taylor Dynamics in unethical business practices. The leak had Lisa's name all over it. Her stomach dropped. Before she could even process what was happening, her office phone rang. Sarah's voice was tight and urgent. "You need to get to the boardroom, now." The moment Lisa stepped inside, the air was suffocating with tension. John stood at the head of the long table, his expression hard as granite. The board members whispered among themselves, some shooting her accusatory glares. "Lisa," John said, voice low and controlled, "do you have any idea how these documents got leaked?" She opened her mouth to respond, but Mark Stevens, one of the senior executives, cut her off. "It's obvious, isn't it?" he sneered. "She's trying to play corporate whistleblower, gain sympathy as some moral crusader, probably planning to sell her story to the media." "That's a lie," Lisa shot back, feeling rage boil up inside her. "I would never do that," Mark smirked. "Really? Because these files came from your login credentials? How do you explain that?" Lisa's mind spun. That wasn't possible. She'd never accessed those files. She looked to John, but his face remained impassive, eyes locked onto hers as if trying to read her soul. "Someone set me up," she said, desperation creeping into her voice. "I swear I didn't do this." The board members murmured again, clearly unconvinced. Sarah stepped forward, holding a tablet. "Sir, I traced the email trail," she said, her tone unusually tense. "It was sent from Lisa's account, but the routing indicates it was spoofed through an external server. Someone went out of their way to make it look like her." John's gaze flickered with the faintest hint of relief, but he didn't say anything. Mark scoffed, shaking his head. "Or she's just good at covering her tracks." Before Lisa could protest, another board member spoke up. "Whether intentional or not, this breach has already caused our stock to drop by 12% overnight. We need damage control." John's jaw clenched. "We will investigate thoroughly before making any decisions." Dismissed. As the room emptied, John stayed behind, his eyes fixed on Lisa. He didn't speak until everyone was gone. "You better be telling me the truth," he said finally. Lisa squared her shoulders, refusing to back down. "I am. Someone is trying to frame me, and I'm going to prove it." Digging for the truth, Lisa and Sarah holed up in a back office, poring over server logs and security access records. They combed through every detail, determined to trace the fake email back to its origin. Hours passed, and just when frustration threatened to break Lisa's resolve, Sarah froze. "Wait, look at this," she whispered. She pointed to a log showing remote access from a seemingly internal device. After digging deeper, they uncovered that the login belonged to Mark Stevens. He had created a duplicate profile under Lisa's name to mask his activities. Lisa's pulse pounded. "He set me up to take the fall while he sabotaged the Orion deal. He wanted to discredit me and tank John's position in one move." Sarah's eyes darkened. "He's been gunning for control ever since John promoted you. Guess he figured if he could discredit you, John's reputation would take the hit too." They had their proof, but there was no time to lose. The press was already buzzing with rumors, and Lisa knew Mark would double down to protect himself. "We need to expose him," Lisa said, her voice fierce. "Now." Sarah nodded. "I'll compile the evidence. You confront him." The showdown. Lisa stormed down the corridor, adrenaline coursing through her veins. She found Mark in his office, smugly typing away at his computer. "You're a real piece of work," Lisa snapped. He didn't even look up. "Excuse me? Framing me to take the fall while you manipulate deals behind John's back? Real brave, Mark. You're done." His smirk faded as she slapped the folder of evidence onto his desk. Mark's face turned pale as he skimmed the documents, his hands shaking. "You can't prove this," he muttered, but the fear was plain on his face. "Oh, but I did. And right now John's reading the same file in his office. Your little game's over." Mark shot to his feet, but before he could react, security guards entered, followed by John and Sarah. John gave him a look so cold it could freeze lava. "Mark Stevens, you're fired. Legal action is already underway. Get out." As security escorted him out, Lisa finally allowed herself to breathe. John stepped closer. His voice softened. "You did good," he said simply. Lisa gave a tired, triumphant smile. Just doing what needed to be done. And for the first time since she started at Taylor Dynamics, she knew she truly belonged. Victory and new beginnings. The next morning, Lisa sat at her tiny kitchen table, staring at the steaming cup of coffee in front of her. Despite clearing her name and taking down Mark, the adrenaline had left her drained. The silence in her small apartment felt heavier than usual, and for a moment, doubts crept back in. Was she really cut out for this world of power plays and ruthless ambition? Her phone buzzed, interrupting her thoughts. It was a message from John. "Come to my office, now." Lisa's heart thudded. Had something gone wrong after all? Was there more fallout from the scandal? She grabbed her coat and hurried out the door, anxiety coiling tight in her stomach. The final test. When she reached John's office, Sarah gave her a brief, approving nod before letting her in. John was standing by the window, looking out over the sprawling cityscape, his hands tucked into his pockets. Without turning around, he spoke. "Do you know why I really hired you?" Lisa hesitated, unsure of where this was going. "Because I helped Ethan?" John let out a small, humorless chuckle. "That was the start, but I could have repaid that debt in 1,000 different ways. The real reason is because I saw something in you, a kind of resilience that can't be taught. You don't back down, no matter how hard you get hit." He finally turned to face her, his expression more open than she'd ever seen. "I needed that. This company needed that." Lisa swallowed, trying to process his words. "So, what now?" John walked over to his desk and picked up a thick envelope. He handed it to her, and she hesitated before taking it. Inside was an official letter, an offer of promotion to Vice President of Corporate Strategy. Lisa looked up, stunned. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," John replied. "You've proven yourself more than capable of handling pressure, making hard decisions, and standing up for what's right. We're expanding our community outreach and worker support programs. I want you leading that charge." Emotion swelled in Lisa's chest. Pride, relief, and maybe even gratitude. I don't know what to say." John's face softened. "Just say yes." A slow smile spread across her face. "Yes." Full circle. A few weeks later, Lisa stood at Ethan's high school graduation, watching him wheel across the stage to receive his diploma. The once timid, fragile boy now radiated confidence, his bright smile lighting up the auditorium. John stood beside her, applauding with the proudest expression she'd ever seen on him. As Ethan rolled down the ramp, he made a beeline straight for them, waving his diploma triumphantly. "Told you I'd make it," he shouted. Lisa laughed and ruffled his hair. "Never doubted it for a second, champ." John gave her a sidelong glance. "You've changed him, you know. Changed me, too." She looked at him, surprised by the admission. "Maybe you just needed a little push in the right direction." He raised an eyebrow, the faintest smile tugging at his lips. "Maybe." A new ERA under Lisa's leadership as vice president, Taylor Dynamics,